Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Baltimore Hebrew congregation as we celebrate this Shabbat now ending with a mincha service. More about that in a moment, followed by a Havdalah service. As Shabbat comes to an end, we celebrate this day, and of course we've gathered, most of us who are here in this room, to celebrate the bar mitzvah of Brandon Rattet. We welcome those of you who are online as well. And more words of explanation later, but all of you should be near a prayer book. Given how they're spread out in COVID, you may have to reach around a little more. They are the smaller of the two blue books. I invite you to take a book in your hands so you can participate in the service. We turn to page 211 as we begin with song.
ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, עונג שבת. המקדשי שבי, המקדשי שבי שבת, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, עונג שבת. זכר למעשה וראשית, זכר למעשה וראשית. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, עונג שבת.
A few words about the prayer books in our hands, because Brandon prepared today to lead us in this service, so we have to be ready to follow. As I said, the prayer books are the smaller blue book. The larger blue book will be used during the Torah service if you choose to follow along. And a couple of things. For those in the room, we appreciate that you stay masked properly, and I'm going to request that those of you who don't have your masks over your noses, please. This far into the pandemic, we know how to wear these things, and I ask that you keep them on throughout the service. We've done our best to increase airflow in this room, but part of our role is to have the masks on. And as we say, as we welcome those in line who do not have to be masked, depending on where they are, that if you're in the sanctuary and eligible, we thank you for being fully vaccinated. In the prayer book that you'll find at the section that Brandon will be leading us through, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner on any given page that we're on, the Hebrew text Right next to that, the Hebrew and English letters. I accept that some people find that helpful and some people do not find it helpful. And then below that, you'll find a fairly faithful translation of what is at the top of the page. We encourage you to explore the prayer book, the notes that come at the bottom. But as Brandon and the cantor and I lead us through the service, where invited, we invite you to join in together on the English. And if you're familiar with the Hebrew at any point, please do. Page 212. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Grant us the courage to be true to our highest selves, and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. We continue on page 219. As we read together, prayer is not purely an act. All things pray, and all things pour forth their souls. The heavens pray, the earth prays, every creature and every living thing. In all life there is a longing. Creation is itself but a longing, a kind of prayer to the Almighty. What are the clouds, the rising and the setting of the sun, the soft radiance of the moon and the gentleness of the night? What are the flashes of the human mind and the storms of the human heart? They are all prayers, the wordless outpouring of boundless longing for God. As we turn to page 220, just a couple more words of explanation. Those of you more familiar with evening services or morning services will note that there are pieces of the service that are not here in an afternoon service, though some things added in. And you'll see that what's missing actually is the material around the Shema, for those for whom that is familiar in the Haftarah. But there's more than enough for Brandon to do here. And so we turn to page 220. Come on up. You should be on, yes you should. And you want to be on the page, right? Nope, you went too far. Go for it.
Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, odi hallelujah selah. Ashrei ha'am shechachalo, Ashrei ha'am shet Adonai Elohav. Happy are those who dwell in your house, they forever praise you. Happy the people who have it, so happy the people who God is Adonai. Page 225. There are times when the love of God burns so powerfully within your heart that the words of prayer seem to rush forth, quickly and without deliberation. At such times it is not you yourself who speak. Rather it is though you that the words are spoken. We continue with Tefillah on page 228. Please rise. Adonai, sifatatitach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei avotenu, ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, Ve'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מחוכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומחיי אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממיץ ומחיי ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
Page 232. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai yai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai yai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרו, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אלוהינו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, ומושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה.
To all generations we will declare your greatness, and for all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Page 235. For the good in us which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world, With our hearts and hands we give praise. For the peace in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For the gift of Shabbat which renews us for life, we offer blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue together on page 237. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw near to life, to peace, and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess, and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw near in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha be'yirah na'avod.
Thank you, Brent.
Page 239. For the gift of our souls, for the promise of our lives, for all we are and all we might yet become, for the creative seeds sown within our minds, those whose nurturing can yield a grand harvest. For all these gifts, we thank you, O God, and pray that we may prove ourselves worthy. Together, may our lives be ripe with the fruit of compassion, sweetly sustaining those in need. May we use our gifts wisely and with love, true messengers of blessing to the world. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha lehodot. Page 240, a prayer for peace.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. I'd like to invite Dylan and Maxwell to join us on the bima, and now we'll continue with a moment of silent prayer, offering either the prayers we find in the prayer book or those we find in our hearts.
Stand still and look at the congregation, guys. You're allowed to smile.
Ose shalom berumav. Uyase shalom aleinu. V'kol Yisrael. V'ahimu amen. Yase shalom. Yase shalom. Shalom aleinu v'yaka Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'yaka Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'yaka Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'yakol. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael.
You get to sit too, Brendan. 2013. That was the year that the Jews within the room and those of our families remember that Hanukkah actually began on the Wednesday night of Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving itself was the first day of Hanukkah, an incredibly rare occurrence. I won't even try to do the math on when that last occurred or might occur again. I actually think it was technically the first time it came. So this weekend, Hanukkah begins tomorrow night. We light the first candle tomorrow night, and even that is rare. If you feel like Hanukkah is coming early, it's not coming early on the Hebrew calendar, on the Jewish calendar, but it is coming early. This is evidently only the 7th time Hanukkah has started during the Thanksgiving weekend since 1942. And 1942 is the operative year because in 1942, Thanksgiving was fixed in the place it is in the federal calendar. It floated a little differently before that. Why do I raise this? Well, here we are near the end of Thanksgiving, near the end of November, and we are getting ready to celebrate the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. And this mixture is something that we as American Jews, certainly the members of Baltimore Hebrew congregation, do quite naturally, mixing our Jewish and our American heritages, sometimes a little confused about which is which and how they blend and how they combined. There are some who are bothered by this mixing of Jewish and non-Jewish customs, just like others in other religions. Don't always like innovation or blurring or blending. But most of us, as I said, and certainly this congregation, accept this blending quite naturally. As we sit here on this unusual Shabbat, between the football that happened on Thanksgiving and the Ravens game that will happen along with the beginning of Hanukkah, a challenge in itself to many families, we recognize that we are likely comfortable in both settings, football and dreidels, turkey decorations, and Hanukkah candles on the menorah. This afternoon moves us further along in our journey through the Torah, reading it chapter by chapter, section by section. We move further along in the Joseph story here in Parshat Torah portion Miketz, the name of this evening's portion. We watch as Joseph, born a nomad in the land of Israel, tries to navigate life among the powerful elite of, if you will, the big city of Egypt. And here Joseph discovers that he can navigate the differences fairly well, even if in this morning's Torah portion, a different Torah portion, he fell victim to confusion, to treachery, and found himself actually imprisoned, given the missteps. In tonight's Torah portion, Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams just as he has interpreted his brother's dreams, and discovered that skills that he had that worked well within his family seemed to work well within his new land now. So Joseph in this portion is residing in Egypt, a land that is also subject to droughts and famines, just like the land of Israel. Living over 3,000 years ago, trust me, Joseph would not have known of Thanksgiving, but he wouldn't have been familiar with Hanukkah either, a holiday whose events happen later than the stories and the lessons in the books of the Torah. And yet we see him find his way through the intersection of cultures. Genesis later on will go on to state that Joseph never forgot his ways, even if that is not clear to us as the general reader. But the Torah wants us to accept, to assert, that it is possible to understand and live within multiple cultures, what Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan even called multiple civilizations. True certainly for the Torah and its intersections, cultures probably works better for us as a word. For we do live in multiple cultures, and this weekend, specifically this year, makes that clear to us. Thanksgiving and Hanukkah overlapping in a weekend. We're taught as Hanukkah begins that the Maccabees fought against Greek-influenced culture. They rejected it. But if you read deeper into the history, you see that they rejected certain things, and other things they embraced. The very Maccabees we were taught were fighting the Greeks took on Greek names themselves, probably other aspects of Greek culture as well. And so as we listen to Torah read at this service, let us not just think of it as ancient tales of an Israelite in Egypt. Let's think about the ways in our own lives, no matter who we are in our background, that we find ourselves intersecting with more than one culture, more than one piece of our heritage, and think about how we navigate through that ourselves. As we listen to the Torah and its translation, let us try to connect in it as we celebrate both Thanksgiving and prepare to light our Hanukkah candles. And so now we turn to our Torah service, and you'll excuse the fact that there's no way through the next minute without giving a lot of instructions to the family. But in the next moment, I'm going to start at the end. Max and Dylan, once the Torah has been passed and Brandon's sung the Shema, that's when you're coming up to undress the Torah. In a moment, after I finish all my instructions, we're going to invite up Elisa, John, Madison, Tiffany, and Alexis Marshall to open the Ark. And also, as we celebrate here with Stephen Steinberg and Emily and Sonny Blah, our grandparents, and are glad that Clark and Janice Rattet are with us online as well, able to celebrate. And we think of Brandon's late grandmother, Maxine Steinberg, at this moment as well, as we recognize all these grandparents. And so as Erica and Josh come up to the bima, let me invite Stephen as well, and let me invite you all to rise and the marshals to open the Ark. Got your blessing?
Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Al Torah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al Torah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim,
שלושה דברים העולם אומר, על התורה ועל עבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל עבודה ועל גמילות חסדים.
Stephen, hopefully they warned you were reading something.
They did.
Okay, and you know his name, so that's the blank, obviously.
Okay,
Okay, you can take your mask off to read if you want.
thank you. Brandon, the Torah and its lessons have been passed down across the generations. We are thrilled that this Torah is symbolically passed from generation to generation, and we now pass it down to you. May you hold this scroll and, more importantly, embrace its values to care for yourself, your family, and the world. Mazel tov.
So now to get the generations right, I'm going to move back beyond them over here. And Josh, you're going to pick it up and take it down there first, right? So Brandon, down your hands.
Shema
Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Shemo.
לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש.
You're over here. Listen to me. Before we start reading Torah, we're going to invite Brandon's parents to share words of personal blessing over him.
Brandon, Boo Boo, Bushki, Beefcake, Brandino, all of these names you have acquired over the years, but to most, you are known as Beef. It is hard to believe we are here at your bar mitzvah. It feels like just yesterday we moved from Boston and welcomed you into our lives just a few weeks later. Your arrival was the jackpot for us. For me, you were my best friend, my companion, the one that took the loneliness out of my heart from moving away from our entire family. For Dad, you were his dream come true. 3 healthy boys, 3 sons, 3 brothers. Our family was now complete, at least I thought, until you added 3 girl dogs to the mix. We are officially complete now. From the moment you were born, you were very charismatic. Everyone was drawn to you. Being the youngest of 3 boys, you kept a schedule far beyond your years, stayed up way too late, and your loving brothers exposed you to things that were not always age appropriate. You were a very spirited boy, and at times that was not in your favor. Whenever an adult was not around and something happened, you were always blamed. Sometimes you were responsible, but a lot of the times you were not. But you always took one for the team and let it roll right off of you. Those younger years with you presented many interesting moments. David and I would often get the vibe as we were approaching a group of parents that they were mumbling under their breath, "Oh, that's Brandon's parents, the boy that has 2 older brothers, the one that tells my kid things he or she should not know at this age." Then there was the moment when we got called because you kept taking your shirt off at dismissal and running around the school. And seriously, how could we forget the one when your arms just accidentally hit the cases off of the fire alarms in school and set all of the alarms off? But the skill you perfected most, playing sick. It all started when you got on the bus for BT camp and continued all through your years at Fort Garrison, culminating with your famous YouTube video you created, your very own creation of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Brandon, you make a lasting impression on everyone you meet. You are a natural leader. This past summer, you were recognized at lacrosse camp as the recipient of the Juice Award. This sums you up. You are the one that brings it all every day, whether it is on or off the field, to parties and to any gathering. Your energy is contagious. Over the past 2 years, you have demonstrated an intense level of commitment to being the best athlete you can be. This dedication does not come easily. It comes with sacrifices and hard work. Dad and I have witnessed you making some very hard choices. You have not only been a devoted athlete, but you've been a loyal friend, a loving son, and a loving brother. You have created so many wonderful friendships, and it is so meaningful to have all of your friends, our friends, and our family here with us tonight. As you are now about to chant your Torah portion, I hope you know how proud you make your dad and I every single day. Your bar mitzvah preparation came at a very intense time. Maxwell heading off to college, Dylan applying to college, and of course, all of this in the midst of a pandemic. Dad and I left the practicing of this special day entirely up to you. You really took the initiative, and our hearts are bursting with admiration this evening. We could not be prouder to be your mother and father. We love you.
Mazel tov. Yeah. We will hear now from our Torah portion for this afternoon's service. You can find it in the larger of the 2 books in front of you, if you'd like to follow along, on page 269, 269. Brandon will be reading from Genesis chapter 41, starting in verse 25. And for the honor of the first Aliyah, we have his parents and brothers. Okay, come on over. Baruch Adonai Ambarach Le'olam.
Baruch atah Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher b'karbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah. Amen.
All right. Hold that side. Perfect. All right. Okay. And we're going to start. Right here. Good. Just give you each word a little tap as you go. All right. Take your time.
Amen. Vayomer Yosef el Paro, Chalom Paro echad hu, et asher ha'Elohim oseh higid b'far'o sheva parot hatovot sheva shanim hena v'sheva hashibolim hatofot sheva shanim hena chalom echad hu v'sheva haparot harakot v'haraot haolot acharehan sheva shanim hena v'sheva hashibolim harekot shedufot hakadim yihiyu sheva shnei ra'av hu hadavar asher dibarti el paro asher ha'Elohim oseh her'a et paro.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
For the honor of the second Aliyah, we'd like to invite Brandon's grandfather, Stephen, to join us for the blessings.
Thank you very much. All right. Baruch Hu es Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu es toraso Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen. Hine sheva shanim baot sava gadol b'chol eretz Mitzrayim v'kamu sheva shnei ra'av achareihen v'nishchak kol hasava be'eretz Mitzrayim v'chila hara'av et ha'aretz v'lo yivada hasava ba'aretz mipnei hara'av ha'u achareichen ki chaved hu me'od ve'al hishanos hachalom el paro pa'amayim ki nachon hadavar me'im ha'Elohim u'memacher ha'Elohim la'asoto.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emes v'chayei olam natan b'sochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Would you stay for a moment? You can help us to hold for the last time.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. And now, for the moment where we call Brandon to the Torah to recite blessings on behalf of the community for the first time, acknowledging him as an adult member of the Jewish community. We call him up using his Hebrew name, Ya'amod, 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 Habachur, Habar Mitzvah, Baruch Avraham ben Meir Reuven ve'Esther, Chazak ve'ematz.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Sorry, Vayita. Yeah, Vayita. Good. Good.
Ve'ata ye'reh Pharaoh ish navon v'chacham v'shiteu al eretz Mitzrayim yaseh Pharaoh ve'yafkid pekidim al ha'aretz v'chimesh et eretz Mitzrayim v'sheva shenei hasava v'yikbetzu et kol ochel hashanim hatovot habaot ha'ele v'yitzberu var tachat yad paro ochel ba'arim v'shamaru v'haya ha'ochel lefikadon la'aretz Lesheva shenei hara'av asher tiyena ba'aretz Mitzrayim v'lo tikaret ha'aretz bara'av.
And now we'll hear Brandon read the English translation of the Torah that he's just chanted for us.
And Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one, the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows are 7 years, and the 7 healthy ears are 7 years. It is the same dream. The 7 lean and ugly cows that followed are 7 years, as are also the 7 empty ears, scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is just as I have told Pharaoh. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. Immediately ahead are 7 years of great abundance in all the land of Egypt. After them will come 7 years of famine, and all the abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten, as the land is ravaged by famine. No trace of the abundance will be left in the land because of the famine thereafter, for it will be very severe. As for Pharaoh having had the same dream twice, it means that the matter has been determined by God, and that God will soon carry it out. Accordingly, let Pharaoh find a man of discernment and wisdom, and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh take steps to appoint overseers over the land and organize the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty. Let all the food of these good years that are coming be gathered, and let the grain be collected under Pharaoh's authority as food to be stored in the cities. Let that food be reserved for the land of the 7 years of famine, which will come upon the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish in the famine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tokenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Even in the midst of a simcha, a happy moment, we remember that there are those in our lives, our families, our communities in need of refuah shlema, in need of healing. And so we may say, Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu, may the one who blessed our ancestors bless them with refuah shlema, with health. We especially think on this Shabbat of Patricia Abend, Miriam Abramson, Gail Adamson, Nathaniel Agan, Shelley Bloss-Bernstein, Jacob Bennis, Bella Berman, Cindy Blake, Justin Bridle, Dale Bookbinder, Sharon Burke, Christian Burdett, Sheldon Kaplan, Ed Chittum, Mitchell Kornblatt, Joseph Frank Cuddy, George Dover, Evan Dime, Sherry Einhorn, David Elkis, Bob Fitchett, Elaine Gammerman, Lynn Garrison, Roseanne Gerstel, Claire Goldstein, Harvey Goldstock, Arnold Gresser, Dr. Richard Gross, Bonnie Jacobson, Arnold Katz, Lenny Kinland, Joseph Klein, Rachel Letterman, Linda Leffman, Christopher Maderi, Sipora Bela Malka, Janet Mazur, Barry Mendelson, Sandy Minkin, Nachum Yisrael, Ben Yoshua Meir, Vishendel Rachel, Jackie Orkham, Craig Parham, Susan Samuels, Ruth Subert, Mary Shearson, Elizabeth Smith, Lou Spritz, Myra Sonnenfeld, Mitzi Spiegelman, Amy Sponseller, Ricky Stewart, Peter Street, David I. Tossman, Leslie Waldman, Donna Wasserman, Arlene Wiener, Emma Weinstein, Trudy Yohei, and Warren Yuspa. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Praised are you, O source of healing, and let us say, Amen. And now, as we prepare to dress the Torah, let me invite Jenny and Jonah Schulman up to the bima to help. Please rise. Bring that over to them in a moment, and that also, and that.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
You're doing it in Hebrew? I'm so impressed. That would be very cool. I'd be very surprised. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Okay. Loudly, slowly, and clearly, right? In addition to leading us in prayer and chanting Torah, Brandon's also prepared his own Devar Torah, his own understanding of this day and this portion.
My Torah portion, Miketz, from the book of Genesis, is talking about how Joseph was sold into slavery and sent to Egypt. During Joseph's time there, Pharaoh had a dream that only Joseph could interpret, which said there were going to be 7 good years and 7 years of famine. Pharaoh appointed Joseph as his highest advisor with great power. Joseph's brothers, the ones who put him up for slavery, came requesting help for the 7 famine years. They needed supplies. Joseph agreed to help only if they brought his youngest brother Benjamin. They brought Benjamin to Joseph. He gave the brothers all the supplies they needed, but he put a wine cup in Benjamin's backpack and accused them of stealing. He did this so his youngest brother Benjamin could stay with him. The first topic I would like to focus on is the importance of family and how Joseph was there for his family and took care of them. He took care of his family when they came to him when there were 7 bad years, and he gave them supplies. Even though they did not treat him very well, he still decided to help them because they were family. His love had not changed just because of a few arguments and how he has been treated, because family is so important to have in your life and you do not want to lose that. This ancient story valuing family is important to our lives today as well. Sure, most of us argue with our families or get upset about silly things. However, like Joseph, we should value family at all times, even when it is difficult. We use a saying in our house that family comes first. The second topic that I would like to focus on is preparing for the future. Preparing for the future is very important because when something good is happening, you need to prepare for the bad times. You'll never know how much time you have, but also when you're in the bad times, you have to prepare for the good times. Joseph prepared for the bad times when Pharaoh dreamed that there were going to be 7 years of good and 7 years of bad. Joseph prepared by stocking up on supplies like food, water, and many more supplies. So he knew that himself and Egypt were going to be okay through these bad years. After he stocked up on supplies, he was already preparing for the good, because with these supplies it will help him and Egypt get through the 7 years of bad, and when the 7 years of bad have ended, him and Egypt will already be okay. None of us will probably ever have to prepare a whole country for a famine. However, we also benefit from planning ahead. My parents always stress the importance of preparation and that nothing comes easy without hard work. My dad always tells me before every game to leave everything on the field, and that as long as I am prepared and play hard, good things will happen. I use this approach in every practice with my teammates, as well as in the off-season and preseason, preparing for the season. Also, during this past year, we have understood how important it is for schools, government, and society to prepare for the future, just as we have benefited by being ready for the challenges that the pandemic's limitations presented. Finally, I would like to focus on forgiveness. Forgiveness is a very special and important trait to have. It is important because if somebody messes up and asks for forgiveness, you should give them it because they deserve another chance. Everybody makes mistakes. It is how we grow and learn from them that is key. Joseph forgave his brothers for selling him into slavery by giving them supplies to survive the 7 years of famine. Even though his brothers made a mistake or mistreated him, he still showed love and empathy towards them. Joseph felt they deserved a second chance. This is how forgiveness is very important. Having 2 older brothers, we certainly have our share of disagreements and fights, but as they sometimes get, they never last long. So even though it is usually Dylan being selfish or Maxwell causing some type of chaos, I love my brothers unconditionally, and we always forgive each other. Our issues are unlikely to be as great as Joseph and his brothers were to one another. However, we all have moments of misunderstanding or getting upset with our families, with our friends, and with others. Joseph's story helps us understand the importance of forgiving and moving forward. From Joseph and his brothers, we learn about family, future, and forgiveness. These are all important things to keep in mind. For my Mitzvah project, I am raising funds for Reach Out Rescue, a rescue organization for mistreated and neglected dogs. Reach Out Rescue holds a very special place to me and my family. I want to raise money so Reach Out Rescue can save as many dogs from shelters as they can and find them loving homes so they do not get euthanized. I want to do this because I love dogs very much. Belle, Chloe, and Gray are my 3 sisters, and all were rescued and adopted by our family. I started fostering dogs for Reach Out Rescue early during the pandemic. We fostered Goose, Penny, Molly, and although I was heartbroken to give them up, we found them all loving homes. We finally convinced Mom to keep Gray, and I want to do more so I can help more dogs. Mom doesn't realize we're getting a 4th dog. Recently, I went to the airport with my mom to pick up a rescue dog that we saved. He flew all the way from Denver to Baltimore. We picked him up at BWI and transported him from the airport to his foster home. It was such a nice feeling to help save his life. This is important to me because dogs are very good animals and deserve to have a life like us and be treated nicely. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for making such a nice life for me. You guys sacrifice a lot and are always there for me to take me to practice, my games, and to hang out with my friends. I love you guys so much. I am so lucky to have you as my parents, even though you both yell way too much. I would also like to thank my 2 brothers, Maxwell and Dylan. Thank you, Maxwell, for always caring for me and picking me up food after your workouts, even though it felt like your workouts lasted forever because it always took you such a long time to bring me my food. I do appreciate you. Thank you, Dylan, for always taking me out to eat and letting me hang out with your friends. It is really nice of you, but just so you know, your friends definitely like me better than you. Thank you, Cantor Sachs, Cantor Elrin, and Rabbi Bush. I would like to thank all of you for helping me prepare for my bar mitzvah, helping me learn my prayers, understand my Torah portion, and perfect my Hebrew where all possible because of the time you dedicated to me. I also want to thank my Papa Steve for FaceTiming me and listening to me practice all the time, for helping me with the outline of my Devar Torah. I also want to thank Grandma Emily and Papa Sonny for giving me my talit that I am wearing tonight. I will always think of you when I wear it. Thank you to all my grandparents and family for supporting me tonight. Lastly, I want to thank all of my friends for supporting me tonight, and I am so excited to celebrate with you all this evening. Shabbat Shalom.
Put that away in the notebook. Brandon, I think I speak for everyone here as we listen to your words and your mom's words, that we know that there's a tug of war going on here, whether or not the family and your word was complete, which I think was a purposely chosen word there, Erica, and you're continuing to lobby here, which is not a bad thing, right? There was a moment in the pandemic when we moved from being virtual to back in this room where we were only allowing 18 people in the room for, for 6-9 months. The bar mitzvah had to wear a mask like everyone else as we navigated our way through. That was a shame for all those weeks, and we were thrilled for the first bat mitzvah who was able to take a mask off. But would have been a deep disappointment today, Brandon, for us not to be able to see your infectious smile, to be able to share that. We call life cycle events of this nature in Judaism really everything but a funeral, if you will. Baby namings, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, confirmation, weddings, we call them simcha. We call them literally happiness or joy. And to know you, to study with you, to talk with you is to experience your joy, your laughter, your looking to be entertained and to entertain, right down to your nickname, or as I learned today, your many nicknames. I only knew one of them there in terms of that. And because of the nature of the pandemic, our studies have been you sitting at home and the cantors or the rabbis online. And if anything, you were all the more relaxed in terms of how you sat or what you shared and how we talked about those things. But I actually think that boils right down to who you are in many ways and the joy in life that we hope to not see go away as you grow older. You just shared with us deep, beautiful words that you took seriously for yourself and with your grandfather's help, because your Devar Torah was done back in August, if I remember correctly, actually, right, in terms of preparing in advance. But the words you shared with us were both serious and deep, connecting things you care about and the world around you and your tradition, and yet they were filled with laughter, they were filled with smiles, they were filled with, as the youngest of 3 children myself, getting your older brothers, as that may be. The combination of those things, don't let anyone tell you can't happen. Just like the cause that you care so deeply about helping dogs, is both a serious thing, as you talk about it, and a joyous thing at the same time. And wherever you go in life, as you build from a bar mitzvah that happened right before Hanukkah and the joy that comes with that, whether it's school or sports or friends or whatever direction your life takes you study and work-wise, the reality of being able to both celebrate life, to be able to smile, and to also be able to engage in the serious things that you and your family and hopefully your community care about, that really is the mixture that this bar mitzvah is supposed to celebrate, the joy and the seriousness and commitment. And so it's with that in mind that Cantor Ellerin and I joyously get to bless you with words that come from the Torah itself at this moment, and hope that this blessing takes you forward in life meaningfully and protected as well. Going back and forth.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav
May God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's presence shine upon you and grant you and all you love God's most precious gift of peace. Amen.
Amen.
And we continue giving thanks for this day and this moment. You can sit.
Together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Again. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Turn to page 256 as we return the Torah to the Ark, to open the Ark. Allow me to welcome up Edward Brown and Emily Cooper. Please rise.
Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomecheha meushar דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה Kadesh Yameinu kekedem. On page 282, Aleinu. Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Page 292. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. On this Shabbat just ending, we especially remember those whose deaths and funerals have occurred during the period of Shloshim, during the last 30 days. Harriet Kessler, Michael Fuchsman, Violet Cashin, Gertrude Mann, Roel Middleman, and we mark the following Yortzites, anniversaries of a death which have been requested to be read. Audrey Ricky Berend, Mayor Joseph Binder, Edward Burrow, Klaus Buchdahl, Jenny Buxbaum, Louis Kahn, Benjamin Du Bois, Erwin Du Bois, William Du Bois, Bertha B. Fishkin, Sarah Friedman, Esther Hackerman, Benjamin Hammond, Jack Hennison, Blossom Kramer Horwitz, Jack Horwitz, Arthur Horwitz, Barbara Barbie Hyman, Ali P. Joseph, Ellis Kahn, Dina Katzenberg, Julian Katzenberg, Harold M. Kropman, Mark Lancer, Belle Lansbaum, Irene Levin, Milton Lewis, Lenora Mandel, Anna Mashkes, Ellen Marks, Hilda Murfeld, Sidney Mosovitz, Samuel Nass, Rose Nyberger, Irene Nussbaum, Francis Oppenheim, Joanne Oppenheimer, James Potter, Nathan Polsky, Evelyn Rackless, Deanie Robbins, Joseph Seidman, Amelia Amy Shackman, Herman Shapiro, Ellis Snyder, Joseph Sussman, and Rosalie Walters. On the occasion of Brandon becoming a bar mitzvah, we remember his grandmother, Maxine Steinberg, and we commemorate the anniversary of the death of Sylvan Kaplan. As we turn to page 294 for the Kaddish to praise God's name for having shared life together, I'd like to invite any who are in mourning or marking a yahrzeit to please rise first. And if it is your custom, as it is for most members of our congregation, I invite you to rise together at this moment, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra kirutei v'almik malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, Bagalav Izman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarak Le'olam Omei Omaya. Yit Barak V'yishtabak V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Ramam V'yit Naseh. V'yit Hadar V'yit Halev V'yit Halal Shmei D'Kudusha Brichu. Leila Minkol Berchata V'shirata. Tushbechata V'nechamata. Damiran B'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May there be peace and life for us, for all Israel, and for all humanity, and may the source of peace grant peace and comfort to those who mourn. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. It is my pleasure at this moment to invite Candace Leonard up to represent the congregation, and Brandon, for you to come back up as well for some presentations. We'll stand right there. Candace, if she talks to you. You can take your mask off, Candace.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov, Brandon. Well done. We're thrilled to be celebrating with you this Shabbat. The Board of Electors of Baltimore Hebrew Congregation congratulates you and your family. To celebrate this achievement, we have a few gifts for you. From the Youth Education Program, your own copy of the Bible so that you will always have one on your bookshelf. Shabbat candlesticks and a Kiddush cup given to you by the Brotherhood and the Women of BHC. And from the North American Federation of Temple Youth, a gift certificate to help you participate in a nifty high school trip to Israel. May your Judaism and your place within your congregation always be a source of strength for you. Mazel tov. BHC continues to gather for services in person and through streaming. We thank those who are in person for being vaccinated and properly masked. This Monday at 6:15, join Rabbi Sachs Cohen and Cantor Ellerin with our monthly meditation, which will be held in the Goodwin Center, distanced and masked. Also, Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. is the last night to come sing with Cantor Ellerin and BHC's multi-generational La La Laki Hanukkah Choir, which has moved into the sanctuary to be both warm and distance. BHC has lots of Hanukkah celebrations coming. Especially, don't miss BHC's Festival of Lights on Sunday, December 5th from 3 to 5 p.m. in the parking lot and tent. There'll be food trucks, games, live music, and local businesses. The fun continues at dusk with a movie screening in our field. Pack your blankets and grab your chair and celebrate Hanukkah with the BHC community. Special thanks to our ushers for their help. Learn more about these and other BHC opportunities from our website, the Temple Bulletin, and our emails. Shabbat Shalom.
We now turn to the Havdalah service marking the end of Shabbat. We bless wine in a Kiddush cup. We bless spices, giving us the sense of Shabbat as well. And we bless a candle, more complicated than last night's candles, celebrating the sweetness and the spirit that we hope go up with us. So to join Brandon on the bima, and you have your book open to this, yes? To join Brandon on the bima, let me invite up Madison Marshall, Tiffany Marshall, and Alexis Marshall, also Jonah Schulman and Max and Dylan as well. You can find these blessings on page 308 as we follow through. Thank you. Okay, you guys don't have symbols? Okay, Madison has the dish cup here. Step right in front of it, and Tiffany has the spices instead of the symbols.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei ha'esh borei ha'esh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Kodesh lecho Hamavdil b'kodesh lecho ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi.
Three steps that way, just the COVID reality. Or Zarua la tzadiku yishrei lev simcha. We are taught as Hanukkah comes that the righteous in all of us, our hearts will be warmed. Shavua tov, may you have a good week, and mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov. Yelanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael. Yelanu, yelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yelanu, yelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yelanu, yelanu, ulecho Yisrael.
Shavua tov, this concludes our service.